Okay. So welcome everyone to today's session. Today's session is one a 365-degree view of your constituents. You need a data warehouse. Today our presenters are Carl and Nathan. And just so that you're aware, these sessions are being recorded and they will be available on demand through your Swiggle login. And the session is going to be interactive, so feel free to submit your questions as we go along. And so I'll hand things over here now to both Carl and Nathan to begin their set.
Thank you so much, Louis.
Yes, thank you, Louis. And we'll get everything started here and kick off the session. I'll share my screens. We'll go through a few slides with just some intro data, and then happy to take your questions throughout the presentation here today. And we're looking forward to it being interactive. I'll be watching the Q&A tab. So if you do have questions, please do voice them. Nathan Klein, who's with me as well, will lead some of our live demonstrations as well of what we've done with the data warehouse. And this is meant to be a primer into using data warehouses if you're not already using them. If you are using them, feel free to present your questions too. All right, so just a little bit about us. We've been working with Blackbaud for the past 18 years. Many of our clients in the nonprofit space utilize products such as RENXT, FENXT, and Luminate Online, all of which have nice sync capabilities to bring data into your data warehouse, commingle that data, build your own dashboards, track your own KPIs, etc. And that's what we'll be talking a little bit about today. Presenting today, like I said, is Nathan and myself. I am the co-founder here at DNL. And Nathan, if you want to say hi, is our full stack developer, works in our data warehouse product. Thanks, Nathan. Some of our clients, if you don't see yourself on this list already, but just know that a lot of our clients are already utilizing a lot of the features of our data warehouse today. So I just wanted to show off a little bit about that. And some of the services that, we've been in different sessions throughout Dev Conference, but today specifically, we're going to be focusing on data management and data warehousing as one of our services, right? We do provide a full list of services around the Blackbaud ecosystem, so happy to answer your questions if they are tangential to data management. Please do bring them up today. And to kick things off, I did want to make sure that we talk about why you might want to use a data warehouse, and specifically what reasons and benefits you may actually get from using a data warehouse. So first and foremost, improved decision making. You're going to get real-time insights into key performance indicators. This allows you to track that data as it's happening, as donations are coming in, as donors are signing up for newsletters, etc. You'll see that data move real time on a dashboard. Comprehensive view of organizational performance. So you can see how well you're doing, how well are your campaigns performing, are you getting the lift that you're expecting from your paid marketing placements, etc. Allows you to make informed, swift decision making. You have effective and strategic actions you can take based on how you're performing across the board. Allows you to be agile, responding to challenges and opportunities in real time. All this available with the data warehouse because it allows you to put in all of your data sources. Enhanced transparency and accountability. So specifically, you want to build a culture of transparency internally. So having real-time dashboards that update as soon as possible to real-time allows all of your staff easy access to those performance metrics. If you have different internal partners that you're working with, they can see how things are performing. They can see how their activities are driving performance and outcomes, giving that clear visibility. Engagement and informed partners or stakeholders. A shared sense of accountability when you're tracking things in real time, as opposed to finding out days or weeks later how things are performing. Resource optimization. So continuous monitoring of the fundraising program effectiveness and operational efficiency, identification of strengths and areas for improvement, as I mentioned before, better resource allocation. You can see where you need to get more people involved, where you might need support, be able to reach out across the organization. For comprehensive data integration, you can integrate data from all your channels and sources. So real-time integration of fundraising results and critical metrics. You can overlay that with Google Analytics data, Adobe Analytics data, whatever you may be using to track the online portion of your analytics. Print response performance analytics as well can be overlaid into the data warehouse, so you can see the lift you're getting from your online and offline channels. Identification of trends and patterns, and data-driven decision-making. So primarily, that's really what it's about, why we want a data warehouse in the real time. And then kind of what we'll demo today is some of the basics of using a data warehouse for real time, but specifically, how it relates to all the great data that you're collecting and utilizing in the Blackbaud ecosystem. So in terms of the agenda for today, we will discuss our data sources specific to this demonstration, Luminate Online, which has web services, which provides our sync capabilities to the data warehouse. Our NXT and the Sky API, including FENXT, right, provides sync capabilities. Third-party data, so if you have an LMS platform, web analytics, et cetera, as I mentioned before, all of those data sources can be in your own usable database that you're using to track your own internal campaign performance in real time. And you're setting up those KPIs and those dashboards specifically to look at what your measures of success and outcomes are, right? So you can actually create the KPIs to be specific, create your own queries, and then track the results of those queries in real time, which is what Nate's going to do that demo portion for me today. So this was just a bit of a primer. Again, as I mentioned before, please do ask questions throughout the presentation. Nate and I don't get stumped. We like to talk. We like to answer. We like to make sure that we're talking about what you're thinking about. So please do put it in the question section. I think we have one question in there, right?
Yes, there's one question.
All right. So, all right. I'll read that question off, and I'll pass this baton over to Nate, and we can kick off with the demonstration. I'll read that question, and then I'll pose it out to you, Nate.
Oh, sounds good.
Thank you.
Could you, yeah, okay, great. I was going to share my screen. Did you say you wanted to do the question first, Carl?
Yes, I just read the question. It was a long one, so thanks, Nate.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, there's some data sources that you have that aren't necessarily stored in a relational database. This is common. Nate and I run into this a lot when we're consulting with clients, where they'll hand us a spreadsheet, right, that's tracking data. A lot of times what we want to use this data warehouse for is to replace that spreadsheet. So if you're tracking any of your KPIs, metrics in there, we want to really replace that with something that's real time and updating all in real time. But also, if your data sources are specifically just being tracked inside a sheet in an Excel file, that data entry process too, Nate and I have worked with clients to build out Sky tiles to collect that data. So this way you can provide a UI, and then that data can get inserted directly into the warehouse. So one of the nice ways that the warehouse can complement Razor's Edge NXT, FENXT, or Luminate Online specifically, is you can build your own custom objects in there to track that unique data. So for Eric's question, we give you a UI not only for the data collection, but then outbound whatever type of reporting interface you need, whether it's dashboard based or export CSVs or some sort of report tabulation. And Nate, what he's got on the screen right now is living inside Illuminate Online, and this is just some real-time KPIs, and I'll let you kind of talk through some of those, Nate.
Sounds great. Yeah, and I was going to say also regarding that relational data, it's true that sometimes from Illuminate Online and from RE, the data we get is not entirely relational. And so we have set up our databases to actually allow RE and Luminate to kind of dictate the data types. So the database is only as relational as RE is relational, and the database is only as relational. And we can build in other relationships as well if we need to make it more or less relational. However, we have typically allowed RE or Luminate to kind of govern that, since the data is coming straight from there. And that way, when we resync, it's always the same. It's always from that source.
Yeah, an example of that on the Luminate Online side specifically would be we would set up let's say a Luminate Online survey to collect the data that's going to be stored in your custom data object. So this way the data always lives permanently in a mutable location like Luminate Online, but still syncs into your data warehouse and then powers and populates those custom objects.
That's right. All right, so yeah, as Carl mentioned, what I'm showing you right now is some data that's stored in a data warehouse. This is all from, or mostly from, Luminate Online. So we have different details related to active donors, first-time donors, lapsed donors, new recurring donors, and we have some custom methodology on the back end that allows us to say, like, okay, how do we want to decide if someone is an active donor? Maybe it was they gave in the last year or something like that. So then we can track them and call them an active donor based on that. We can track donor retention rates year over year. We can track, giving rates in various ways, whether it's the projected annual revenue from, those monthly gifts, or whether it's the number of active givers at this moment. This is actually, all this data right now is coming from our Sandbox account. So, you see something like 22 active donors. A lot of big clients would have more than this, obviously, but, it just depends on the size of the organization and other details.
Yeah, and specifically to the question up there too, one of the nice things that we can do with this, again, as Nate said, we're working in our sandbox environment of Luminate Online just for the demo here. So we're, just showing all test data that Nate and I had to key in on some preview of donation forms in Luminate Online to populate the dashboard for today. But specifically to your question or comment, Gabrielle, in the audience, we can actually put up, what active donors look like. And when we power that KPI tile, we can join active donors in both RE and NXT as well as Luminate Online. And then we basically subtract out the LO data, because we know for most of our clients, the LO data is already flowing into RE and NXT, and we don't want to double count or what have you. So we usually have a few clever ways built into our data warehouse to kind of pre-filter that data. A lot of clients prefix the letters LO in front of transaction IDs in RE NXT, so that's a quick way that we're able to pre-filter those out so we don't count them more than once. But you can track your active recurring donors, and as Nate was saying, it's your definition of what an active recurring donor is, or what an active donor is. We have clients who like to say if someone hasn't donated in more than 12 months, then maybe they're falling into a lapsed type of donor status. So we can track that as a KPI. So you can see these numbers move in real time. If we were to make a test donation, I made a recurring one at the start of the demo, which took us just from 63 to 64 as we put them in there. But think about your KPIs, and these are some that we set up for the example today. But pretty much anything you can think of, as long as you have the underlying data, is we can write these updating real time. I'll just call them queries here since it's based on a data warehouse. But those will power those and refresh, and as there's new records, because it's listening all the time for those records to come in.
Right, and Gabrielle, I would also add, if you felt like one of your sources, whether it was RE or LO, was more accurate, we could use that as kind of the default. So let's say, you were having trouble, Luminate was not reflecting some of the RE data that you had. Well, then, in this KPI, if we made sure that RE was the primary source of truth, at least for certain metrics, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. That issue would be resolved. We do have the options like that available to you.
That's great. At the bottom here too, we've gone ahead and added in some trending donation forms. So just again, just samples today. We threw some KPIs up there. Nate's showing how you can change the periods of time that we're looking at on these dashboards in real time. A lot of people specifically want to go back to an exact date and time and see which was performing well. We've set up columns there to track the number of donations, number of recurrings, number of one-times, right? So what we're doing there specifically is we're able to see every transaction as we sync it over. And especially if you think about the online data, we know which form it came from. So we can have those form-specific metrics added to your real-time dashboard. Luminate Online does a great job of keeping track of all of that data. Those transactions are attached to those form IDs. It's a little bit different, obviously, on the NXT side, but we'll see those gifts that are entered. We can also associate them to batches. Some clients have wanted to see what batch they were in, et cetera. So we can really pop up any sort of data you want from a metric standpoint. So if you can think about it, we can view it. And then scrolling up, I know we've split this sample one to just be a couple simple, monthly giving KPIs and one-time giving KPIs. But some people like to see their revenue and have the revenue forecast in such a way. And we can also put visual indicators on there as well if you're charting up or down versus the previous month in revenue generated, especially on the one-time side, right? It's nice to see month over month if you're trending upward or downward or beating the previous month. So all things that our team and Nate can specifically add and has had to add throughout the time.
Correct. Yeah, we have it. Our warehouse is set up to sync anything from RE that's available in the Sky API or anything in LO that's available via web services. So that's nice.
I think we got another question coming in too, Nate. I'll read it out. So have we ever had a client of ours ask us to extract particular data from NXT that you could not extract due to limitations in Sky API? So if there are some data, data points that you want to get at that, let's say you're able to access in RE7 and they haven't yet been turned on or they're in beta in the Sky API side, that's the same thing as kind of that Excel sheet, right? We can actually extract that data on a regular or recurring basis, and we can set up different methodologies for that, automated ETL processes, et cetera, to get the data into the warehouse. Other methodologies we use is clients have run queries or reports on the data sets that they're not yet able to have in a real-time sync, and then just load them into the data warehouse. We give them, a file chooser. They can upload it, and it'll sync into the appropriate object or objects relationally, depending on what the data source is, which allows them to obviously add data that's not necessarily third party. We can add third party data that way in real time or not real time. But we also have a bunch of clients to your question that send over their print fulfillment centers as well as their direct mail information, and they want that piped in real time when the campaigns drop, the response, et cetera. So automated ETL processes can bring data into here, including just you running queries and us providing a browse icon and taking a CSV file and importing it in real time to load the data that way. So you have a lot of options to bring data into the warehouse from any of your data sources too, right? And sometimes, you may be doing your own analysis and you want to add some of those data points in. So we work with you to discover what that object should look like and related objects, and then how we're going to utilize that across the data sources.
Even for instance, we had a client who wanted to get volunteers imported from RE, but they weren't available via Sky API. So they did an export of all their volunteers from the database view of NXT, and we imported them all. And in fact, we built a Sky tile that would allow them to add new volunteer roles and activities to the warehouse separately if they so chose. So definitely lots of options there as far as how to integrate with it, how to integrate with the warehouse, and how to add your data to that warehouse.
Yeah, so I'll talk about this too, and we'll move on to probably a little more robust of a dashboard too. But We got a question coming in too about what options are available to clients to analyze data in the warehouse. Can users pull or export data from the warehouse and pull it into Power BI or Excel? We have numerous clients who typically what we'll do is we'll provide them with a read-only user to the warehouse so that they can direct connect from either Microsoft Power BI, or if you're more comfortable with Tableau or a different reporting platform, you can actually connect directly to this warehouse, build your own dashboards with the tools that are available to you or you already may have licensed. And kind of these real-time dashboards that we build are specific to KPIs that you want to make sure you have high availability on. So we've built these endpoints to power these KPIs. They're web accessible. We usually will output them right into NXT through a SkyTile or into Luminate Online if you have that platform as well for the admins to see in real time, just for accessibility and usability. But the data is 100% accessible. And the reason that we typically give a read-only user license for those types of options is so that you don't accidentally write or corrupt your data in the data warehouse. We let the data actually get updated through the source. So if you did need to make an update to a contact record, change their name or email, you could submit that in NXT or Luminate Online, and that update would sync down and be reflected in the data warehouse. You can also use to follow up on that question too. We're getting some good questions here. You can also use the warehouse for direct marketing segmentation. One of the things that we've done is realize that clients will sometimes want to automate the segmentation. So we were just talking, and Nate was specifically mentioning active donors. So let's just say we had a simple automation set up where every time someone is active or lapsed, right? So they've made a donation in the last 12 months or they haven't made one in the last 12 months, we can automatically add coding to their record on the NXT side that you can use for direct marketing or online marketing purposes. Or on the Luminate Online side, same thing. We can add information to their bio data, but we can also group and segment them into different interest groups, as well as admin segmentation groups, so that they can power your audiences for your automated email campaigns on both the NXT and the LO side, based on information points we hear about them. It's a common thing. So if you have a third-party LMS integration, for example, you might want to segment people who complete the LMS learning track and then have them automatically get segmented in some way, or have their record updated. That powers automatic segmentation by let's say a Boolean on the record or something like that, if you're using dynamically rebuilding groups on the Luminate Online side, or if you're using constituent codes on the NXT side. It allows you a clear way to automate those processes as well for segmentation and marketing.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients who have daily jobs running, not so much for segmentation and marketing, but daily jobs to check and see if a volunteer needs to be updated, or to check and see if a donation qualifies for a certain feature implementation or something like that. So there definitely are lots of things there for sure.
Yeah, we'll have clients too that maybe have giving circles and things like that, and people who donate cumulatively more than $5,000 a year in the gold circle, and they want that record update in NXT. You can do all of that specifically with the use of any sort of grouping, real-time listening, or queries that happen on an automated basis. I think, Nate, you're going to show some TeamRaiser dashboard reports.
Yes, I was going to move over to that TeamRaiser dashboard. So this is something we've constructed for clients, and that can be applied to really any client that uses TeamRaiser. Load in their, if they have regions, or if your TeamRaiser is in a specific region or in a specific has a specific classification, you can be loaded in and segmented based on that classification or region, and we can show goals in different ways. We can show percentages of reaching goals. We can show current revenue week over week with variances, with percentage of budget, with gaps to budget, with amounts even that are unconfirmed. We can show team statistics as well. Returning teams, new teams, again, percentages to goals, team revenue, with those details as well. Again, also participant statistics, including different types of fundraisers, whether they're $0 fundraisers or they actually have donations associated with them, and any sponsorship data. What if this is available? Not everybody uses sponsorship data, but you can get sponsorship totals as well in different ways. And then it can be summarized here at the bottom for you, and then you can download reports from that. So you can then also real time, or you can switch which date you want, and this allows you to choose a previous date in the past and see how your team raisers are doing as of a particular date, as of a particular year, and they'll update accordingly. And these are updated real time based on Luminate sync. So web services, every minute, donation, web team raiser gifts and teams and participants or registrations are synced down. So if you have a new one that's created or updated, they'll be synced down, and as soon as they're available in the data warehouse, they will be immediately available in this report. And this report lives in LO's admin dashboard, actually. So you can see it's a secure3.convio URL there. So we can actually load it in, so anyone who is an LO admin can log in and view their details. And we can have some some summary data up at the top here, just kind of showing where you are, including these arrows that show if you're down or if you're up.
Yeah, we usually place these dashboards, to your question, in the LO admin section, just where you'd run your standard team raiser reports that are available today. This is just allowing you to access data that's in your warehouse, as well as being able to commingle it with RE NXT data in real time, track specific KPIs, or set up reporting that's specific to your org. So if you're a federated org, in the example that Nate's showing here, and you want to have your different fundraiser event managers from across the country see how the other regions are doing, or see how the other association members are doing, right? See how the other chapters are doing, right? Because some orgs are chapter-based or region-based, et cetera, if they're federated, or they're just multi-state, or they happen to operate in different marketing areas across the country. It allows them to really segment those events, or compare just their regular events. They've got a walk event versus a ride event, et cetera. They can compare that.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, so it sounds like we had a question too about for our data warehouse. We're typically utilizing like a MySQL database architecture, so we can build out all of your objects. We can connect to any SQL or Synaptic database. So we have some clients that are hosting with us in an AWS environment, and they have different flavors of databases available, as well as on the Microsoft Azure side, you have different flavors of databases available as well. So typically, we're hosting in one of those two clouds most often, because that's where our clients are. There's nothing to say that you can't move this into a more typical data warehouse type environment, like a Snowflake, for example, from one of the questions. But what we do find is that utilizing the data warehouses specifically for your own needs here keeps them highly performant. So we have very low latency. This data updates in real time. So literally, as you're refreshing and the transactions are coming in, people are getting to see the data move in a much faster way than say a traditional data warehouse vendor may be updating. So
and we do prefer relational databases in terms of style, but as we said a little bit earlier, we do kind of let RE and LO dictate that for us in those terms, and then for other data types we can adjust accordingly as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do too, we found is just a simple thing to help our clients understand the data model and the schema, and it's really simple, is we just started prefixing the relational data objects in our database with the sources acronym. So for example, you'd have FE for Financial Edge data, RE for Razor's Edge data, or LO for Luminate Online data, right? And then if they have an LMS platform, right, whatever those acronyms may be, it really helped pull it together for clients who, like we said earlier, are maybe building some of their own reporting needs using a Power BI tool or a Tableau tool, or any other sort of reporting platform that they like. They can kind of understand that where the data is coming from and realize what they're joining on. Because a lot of times we'll join contacts, together, right? So we can join a contact from both Luminate Online and Razor's Edge and see the differences in the record or the different data that's available. So we can present that back as well. If you do want to publish any of this data externally, we do have clients that do that as well. So we'll take smaller subsets of the data. We've done that for a few clients here that we're presenting as well at Blackbaud's Dev Conference today. But we make endpoints available with nondescript or whatever is considered public data for that client. We'll have an endpoint, and then you can call that endpoint in a public setting, and it can return data in JSON format. So you can, have it power not only a report or a dashboard, but can also just populate content on a page or do other data summaries or data visualizations that they may want. So if you're doing any charting or graphical representations, or just even powering a thermometer is a common use case. If we have the option to the possibility to talk in the future, we can show you those endpoints we build, and Nate's here today to show some of the back end stuff as well. But specifically, we can really show you, what things look like, what we're able to do, and I think Nate, you can kind of go through your IDE environment and kind of explain out for some of the dev conference folks who are more technical, who want to know what's happening on the back end. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I'll start from kind of the front and move backwards. So we have a Vue application, Vue.js application that's built into, or that's being loaded into Luminate Online. And so, here we have, just a Vue application set up where you can add all kinds of things. I've specifically used a couple different tools in order to get those charts or those the layout to look the way it does. Yeah, I have this AG grid that's putting everything in a grid in that table format for us, allowing us to do actually a little bit of sorting. And I can show you that even. You can do a little bit of sorting with different things. So you could either sort up and down. Well, I guess here it doesn't matter too much there. But yeah, you can sort up and down. You can search for different amounts or different names depending on how you have it set up. So it does give some options there. I've also integrated a tool to show charts. So you can add charting software there as well. Let's see, anything else that's interesting to see here? I have the backend pulled up as well. Let's open that.
Yes, well, specifically, what do you want to show on the back end?
I was going to show, I have built this package that you can integrate into any PHP project. Really, it's designed for Laravel, but it could technically go into any PHP project that allows for displaying different admin report setups. And then I'll show our little sandbox environment. Go fast, I forgot to open that one, but not hard to do.
Yeah, and specifically too, as Nate pulls that up here in our final minutes, think about questions too about your own data sources or things you're like, hey, one of the reasons that clients come to us quite a bit for the data warehouse is there's some data in RE NXT or LO or an FE. I can think about the FE example that we have, live as well for another client that wants to show the project balances on their website, right? So we can build a sync to the warehouse and then build a public side of that API that authenticates, that's not exposing other admin access, because the data source now becomes the data warehouse, right? So we're building those public endpoints so that you can access it.
Right. Yeah, and so we've integrated our own PHP packages here. So this is an example Laravel installation that has some PHP packages, including our reports package, our Sky API package, and our Luminate package. All three of those. And then we can build custom controllers or custom functionality that allows us to display or sort different data. So that way, whatever you want to do, we're able to build the logic for it and get it done. Definitely let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, when we've done these demos, I'll give Nate some time to set it up, but sometimes people want to just see the table structure in the database. So I'll let you see if you can pull that up in our final minutes here. I'll give them a couple minutes to open up a workbench to view the database, but I'll go through a couple other scenarios while we work on that specifically. But if you've got a use case, most often that I hear is outside of just wanting to be able to track their own data and their own custom object, etc., is a lot of times our clients also have other vendors that need access to specific data that they have stored in their NXT or their FE database, and it needs to be dropped off on some sort of a schedule. So we'll build an automation to pick that file up, transform it into whatever format that vendor needs, drop it off, or post it to that vendor's API. And while I was saying that, Nate brought up, some of the table schema that we have for our middleware. This is for our sandbox that we were demoing today. You could see some of those prefixes we have there of FE, LO, RE, right? And that really is just what I was talking about before, that makes it really kind of simple to see what the table structure looks like and what the data is, right? So
yeah, you can pull up columns. You can run reports against this, run queries against this very simply.
Yeah, if we look at the fields available on the LO contact record, for example, this is usually when we're doing direct demonstrations for clients, what pulls it together is, right, these are all the columns that you'll see right in your LO database, right? These are all your bio data fields. And these are the ones that the client has set up in the database configuration of LO that, admin can see, admin can change the fields that you've enabled for tracking or collection or populating through your regular forms or your fundraising forms, etc. And so you can see how we could actually join very simply once we're in the warehouse and have both data sets, both the NXT and the LO data. We can join a contact and get a field that maybe only exists in Razor's Edge. We could pull that into a query to get information that we know about them on the LO side, right? So if we look at RE constituents as that object, right, you'll start to see all of the columns that are available in Razor's Edge NXT. Right, so we have a full object for every one of our donors, every one of our prospects, right? And then we have the related fields to it as well. We can do the same thing for transactions and gifts, I think. Nate, if we look at the LO donations, we've got LO recurring payments synced as well. So if you want to be able to query on, how do we know how many active recurring donors we have on the LO side? Well, we look at the recurring payments object that we're syncing and we see how many of those are still status active, right? On the RE side, we've got the gifts, we've got the gift splits, we've got the custom fields that are on those gifts, right? Or what attributes, whatever you want to call them. And we can pull that data in as well to any of our queries, any of our dashboards, any of our outbound public API endpoints that we want to build out. So it really gives us, the flexibility to track data in real time at a very minute level, because we're really syncing everything that Blackbaud makes available in their open API structure. We're syncing that into the warehouse so that you have access to that data to use to power any query, report, KPI, or make a public endpoint where necessary. Sometime an example of For the contacts is people want to be able to pull in certain data about contacts because they need to create a directory. And sometimes it's in a logged in environment. They need a directory so people can see all their volunteers. They need a directory so they can see people who are active donors or people who have memberships, right, for orgs that have that type of constituency. So anything that you can think about really that you may want to do with your data, getting it into the warehouse is kind of the first step for you to, take receipt of it. And this is kind of an environment that is just staying up to date. So as you process new GIFs in RE NXT, those GIFs flow into the warehouse, right, and can move a dashboard on a page, right? If you're an RE NXT only client, we can put a thermometer, right? We can filter it by fund, right? So we can just look at funds, or we can look at just GIFs that apply to certain campaigns, funds, appeals, and packages. So depending on how you want to filter it down the whole way. So thinking about those things, gives us a lot of different integration points as well. If there's anything you wanted to add to, Nate.
I think that's a great overview. I was going to say, yeah, we have jobs that are running, that sync each of these points down. So, you can set them to run at different times depending on the type of data, but, often we have them running every minute. A lot of these, you could have certain ones that are run, at one time a day. And it loads that data right into the data warehouse for you.
Yeah, that's a good point too. One of the ways that we kind of keep things, low latency as well is that some of the data sources our clients have, especially on the third-party side where they don't get a lot of data updates, or they're working with a vendor who only updates the data overnight or in batch or something, right? So all the Blackbaud endpoints, we're getting real-time updates. But if you've got a third-party vendor, you want to mix that data or commingle that data into the warehouse, and they only update it once a day, we can set up our job to just go get that data once a day. There's no reason for us to continuously ask if they're only updating it once a day. I've got a question too. Why did we decide to use PHP for this project? So even before Nate started here at DNL, so 18 years ago, we were a LAMP shop to begin with. It has a good open source community around it, and we've kind of over time, as the Laravel framework came out, which is built on top of PHP, which is why we still use PHP today, transitioned to the Laravel framework, and it's the most popular framework in the PHP ecosystem at the moment. It's a framework for artisans, I think, is one of their taglines, Nate. I mean, it's really easy to read the code. It's very nice looking. And it's opinionated, right? So just as I'm saying, while we're using it, developers pick the languages they like, and it's very often opinionated, not in the sense of a coding or language standard, which are also opinionated, but from a developer speak, but also it's our opinion that it's just a nice way to consume these JSON endpoints that are available, SOAP endpoints, etc. It gives us a really nice tool set. And it's fully open source, so our clients don't have to pay any licensing on these languages and frameworks, and they can run in an open source environment, which reduces, their OS costs as well as any other subsequent licensing they may need. Thanks for the question, Mike. Yeah. So I know we've got about a minute left here. I'm going to open it up for questions. Otherwise, I will pose a couple things to Nate. I think we got another question coming in. Tell us about the performance of your data warehouse, time to update and consolidate all data. Yeah, so good question there. So one of the things that's nice about our product, specifically in our warehouse, is that we have a few different levels of support. So some of our very, very large clients, these are clients taking in hundreds of millions to billions of dollars in donations per year. They'll be in a single tenant environment. We can control that entire single tenant environment for them. So they can be in their cloud stack, or they can be on our cloud stack, either way, but they'll have a single tenant environment. We can have separate database servers as well as blue-green configurations, rollovers to different, data centers, whether it's Azure or AWS. They all do replication and rollover to different regions and data centers, etc. We've stuck with that structure too, because we also have a lot of clients, mutual clients with Blackbaud that are in Canada, so we can spin up your environment in Canada, whether it's hosted inside of our cloud stack or the client's cloud stack. So that allows the uptime to be dependent on the level that the client would like to contract for. We also have options in a multi-tenant environment that uses our RDS type servers in AWS that can, like I said, blue-green, provide high availability databases as well. So the performance is quite good. You know, a lot of the clients that you talk to that run on our machines, not only do we monitor them and we can tie in, you know, New Relic monitoring, et cetera, as well as some of the other platforms that our clients may use. But these, you're not dependent on any other client's infrastructure, depending on what sort of system architecture you want us to set up. Post this.
That's
Yeah.
already-
All right. I think we're at time. Are we not, Lewis?
Yes, we are at time. So one last item here is the survey should be up. And if you want to hear Carl and Nathan at BBCon, please vote for them. Please fill out the survey because they can win a golden ticket to BBCon to present.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And thanks for all your great questions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Leave you guys, if you want to check out, go ahead. I'm just going to leave the stage open a little bit longer to give people time to complete the survey. Yep, just exit. Take care.